All right, quick heads up for 2026 flyers, especially if you are in your 60s, 70s, or beyond. TSA and border agencies have been rolling out new ID and passport rules that are about to catch a lot of people off guard. If you are planning to fly in 2026, what I am about to share can be the difference between stepping onto your dream vacation or getting stopped right when you are finally at the finish line. Because this is how it usually goes. You show up thinking you did everything right. You arrive 2 hours early. Your medications are in the original bottles. You even brought a note from your doctor. Then one tiny detail, buried in the fine print, turns into a full trip killer. Starting January 1st, 2026, there are 8 major passport and ID rules, both in the United States and in Europe, that quietly punish anyone who has not been tracking every update like it is their part-time job. I went through more than 200 complaints from older travelers and spoke with 3 retired TSA supervisors. The same 8 traps kept showing up again and again. By the end of this video, you will know exactly what to fix at home so nobody at TSA, the gate, or European border control can send you back. And rule number 3 is the one that gets more older travelers pulled aside than all the others put together. Most people do not even realize it is a rule. All right, starting with number 8. Here's what most travel agents don't say out loud. The expiration date printed in your passport is not the real deadline for international travel. Say you book a trip to Thailand. Your passport expires March 15th. Your flight is January 10. You look at it and think, more than 2 months left. I'm fine. At check-in, the agent stops you and says, Thailand requires your passport to be valid at least 6 months from your entry date. You explain you'll be back in 2 weeks. They don't care. Result, $2,400 in non-refundable tickets, gone in one conversation. A lot of travelers in their 60s and 70s get caught by this. Dozens of countries now use some version of the 6-month rule in much of Asia, parts of Africa, and a few Caribbean islands. And it's easy to miss if you're not glued to travel news. And renewing a passport isn't always a quick errand anymore. Getting to the office, standing in line, dealing with delays. It takes more out of you than it did at 30. Here's what you do. Check your passport right now. Add 6 months to your entry date and your return date. If it expires anywhere in that window, renew it. In the US, you can renew online at travel.state.gov in under 30 minutes. Processing takes about 6 to 8 weeks, sometimes longer in busy seasons, so don't wait until December for a January trip. Rule of thumb, your passport should be valid for 6 months after you get home, not just while you're traveling. The magic question when booking international trips: does this destination require 6 months of passport validity? And a simple pro tip, take a photo of your passport's expiration date and set a phone reminder 10 months before it expires. That gives you a calm 2-month buffer to renew without panic. And passport expiry is still the easy problem, compared to what happens when your passport looks brand new and the system decides it's damaged. I had immigration officers tell me off the record. They're rejecting passports now for damage you can't even see. Your passport looks totally fine. Clean cover, smooth pages, clear photo. But you've built one little habit over the years, folding it and sliding it into your back pocket because you don't feel like carrying a separate wallet. Then you're at the gate for your London flight. The agent scans it. Error. Tries again. Error. Sir, the RFID chip isn't reading. This passport is damaged. And you're standing there like, damaged? It looks brand new. On the outside, yes. Inside, the chip is dead. One missed flight and about $1,800 in rebooking fees later, the lesson really sticks. Here's what people don't realize. Inside the cover is a tiny antenna. Fold it enough times and it cracks. The chip dies even if the passport still looks brand new. Seniors keep passports for years and don't always inspect them, and weaker eyesight makes small ripples, water stains, or peeling plastic easy to miss. And starting in 2026, more countries are going to push you through e-gates that rely on that chip. If it won't scan, the system treats your passport as broken, not borderline okay. So do this instead. Never fold or roll your passport and stop carrying it in your back pocket. Keep it flat in a wallet, a document pouch, or a hard shell holder. If your eyes aren't great, ask your kids or grandkids to check it under good light. And if your photo is faded, or you look very different now, renew early. And if you're already at the counter and the chip fails, one calm line works way better than arguing. I'd like to request manual processing while I arrange to replace this passport after this trip. All right, now Rule 6 is the one catching a lot of seniors off guard, even on quick domestic trips to see family. This is the one catching a lot of seniors off guard, even on simple trips to see family. Since May 2025, TSA has been tightening Real ID checks, and by 2026, they're enforcing it hard. A grandmother shows up for a short domestic flight to visit her grandkids. She hands over her driver's license, the same one she's used for years. The TSA agent looks at it and says, "Ma'am, this doesn't have the Real ID star. Do you have your passport?" She didn't bring it. It's a flight inside the US. Why would she? So now she gets sent to secondary screening. And this is where a quick family trip turns into an episode of How Long Can We Stand Here? 45 minutes of questions, extra checks, full pat-down. And by the time they finally let her through, the flight is gone. That little weekend visit just became another few $100s to rebook and a whole lot of stress she didn't sign up for. This hits people over 60 especially hard because a lot of seniors are still carrying older licenses they got decades ago with no little gold or black star in the corner. They don't fly constantly, they're not following every TSA update, and getting to the DMV, standing in line, driving across town, dealing with paperwork, just isn't as easy as it used to be. And in 2026, more checkpoints are simply treating those old licenses as not good enough, pushing seniors into long, exhausting identity checks or even extra fees through systems like Confirm.id. So here's the simple fix. Pull out your license and look at the upper right corner. If there's no star, that license is not Real ID compliant. For flights, you'll need either a Real ID license or your passport. And if you're over 60 and you fly even once or twice a year, the best move is boring, but powerful. Use your passport as your main ID for flying, even on domestic trips. TSA accepts it everywhere, and you don't have to play the guessing game of whether your state caught up with Real ID yet. Now, once you handle that, rule number 5 is where travel starts feeling a little futuristic, because Europe's border process is changing in a way that catches older travelers fast. Now Europe is where things start to feel a little more scan your whole existence. Starting October 12th, 2025, Europe begins rolling out the new entry and exit system. And by April 10th, 2026, it becomes mandatory at almost every Schengen border. Here's how this plays out in real life. A 75-year-old couple from Seattle lands in Paris for their 50th anniversary trip. They're expecting the classic. Quick passport stamp, polite nod, welcome to France. Instead, they get directed to a kiosk like they're checking in for a gym membership. Place your fingers here. Look at the camera. The husband has arthritis. His fingers won't sit flat. The machine fails once, then twice, and it starts feeling personal. By the time they finally clear immigration, they've missed their train to Provence and dropped $200 just to rebook. This is exactly what the new EES system does. Europe is collecting your face photo and fingerprints as part of the border process, and for a lot of older travelers, it simply takes longer. Arthritis, tremors, dry skin, slower movement, even just the fatigue from a long flight. None of that is wrong, but the kiosk doesn't care. So the smart move is to build your trip around reality, instead of speed running the airport like you're 28. On Europe trips, show up about 30 minutes earlier than you used to. If your hands are going to be an issue, say it immediately, instead of trying to fight the scanner 6 times while the line behind you grows. And once you successfully get registered in the system the first time, future entries are usually smoother. Connections inside Europe are another sneaky trap. Give yourself at least 90 minutes, because those tight 45 to 60-minute layovers can collapse fast if the borderline is long or the walk between gates is brutal. And if you're traveling with a spouse, getting processed together on the first trip can make future trips easier, so you're not split up into different queues. If the scanner can't read your fingerprints, the calm sentence that works is, "I have a medical condition with my hands." So my fingerprints are hard to scan. Is there an alternative process? And Europe still isn't done, because fingerprints are only half of it. The next rule is the online pre-approval that can stop you before you even leave the US. And Europe still isn't done with the paperwork vibes, because the next trap can stop you before you even leave the US. Most seniors don't even know ETIAS exists. But if you're planning trips in late 2026 and beyond, Americans are going to be dealing with this like it's a normal part of flying to Europe. No ETIAS, no boarding, even if your passport is perfectly valid. Here's the scene. You've booked a dream river cruise in Europe. Passport ready. Tickets printed. Bags packed. You're feeling proud of yourself, organized, early, hydrated, the whole thing. Then at check-in, the agent says, "Do you have your ETIAS authorization?" You blink like they just asked for your airport horoscope. You've never heard of it. They can't check you in. So now you're standing there on airport Wi-Fi, racing through an online form, paying the fee, and hoping it approves fast enough that you don't become the person watching their flight leave on the monitor. And if it doesn't come through in time, that's when the math gets ugly. Rebooking, lost hotel nights, missed cruise departure. Hundreds of dollars can vanish without you doing anything wrong. This is especially risky for seniors because ETIAS sounds optional until the moment it's not. It's Europe's online pre-screening pass. Think of it like the US ESTA concept. But a lot of people will assume, I have a passport, I'm good, and never realize there's an extra step tied to that passport number. So here's the move that keeps it painless. Treat ETIAS like something you handle while you're still at home in comfy clothes, not while you're trying to hear gate announcements over a crying baby. Apply at least 1 week before your flight, and earlier if you like doing things without adrenaline. Use the official EU site, and if online forms aren't your thing, have someone you trust sit with you for 5 minutes so it's done correctly. Once it's approved, print the confirmation. Not because you're old school, because paper doesn't die at 2% battery. Keep a screenshot on your phone too, and if you're comfortable, store it in the cloud so it's still there if your phone goes missing. ETIAS is valid for 3 years or until your passport expires, whichever comes first. And this part matters. If you get a new passport, you need a new ETIAS because it's tied to your passport number. The whole point is simple. You want your energy for the trip, not the check-in counter. All right, now rule 3 is where things get messy in a totally different way, because it's the digital ID situation that can make a perfectly normal traveler look suspicious for no reason. This one is catching a lot of seniors off guard because it sounds like a win. TSA now accepts digital IDs in Apple Wallet and Google Wallet. So on paper, it feels amazing. No wallet, no plastic card, just your phone like you're living in the future. Then reality shows up. A tech-savvy grandpa was genuinely proud he added his digital driver's license to his phone all by himself. He lands at O'Hare, rolls up to security like, "Watch this," holds up the phone, and the scanner lights up red. The agent looks at him and goes, "Sir, we don't accept digital IDs at this checkpoint. Do you have your physical license?" He doesn't. Because his state marketed it as TSA approved, so he figured the plastic card was optional. By the time he gets pulled aside, tries to explain, and they do the whole identity verification dance, his boarding window is gone and the flight is closed. Seniors get burned by this because TSA approved sounds like works everywhere. It doesn't. Some airports accept digital ID at certain checkpoints, and then 2 terminals over, totally different setup. And all it takes is one strict agent and one missing physical ID for your day to turn into a long, fluorescent-lit stress test. So here's the move. Treat digital ID like a convenience, not a substitute. Bring your physical ID anyway, license or passport, every single time. And if you're going to use the digital one, make sure your phone is charged and your screen brightness is up before you even reach the podium. You do not want to be that person trying to scan a dim screen at 4% battery while the line behind you starts doing the sighing orchestra. If your digital ID fails, the magic sentence is simple. I have my physical ID as backup, and you hand it over immediately. No debate, no awkward tech support moment at TSA. And one more insider move. Keep a clear photo of the front of your physical ID stored safely on your phone. Not to replace the real thing, just to help airline staff confirm who you are faster if your wallet goes missing. That's how fancy digital ID goes from feeling futuristic to being the reason you spend an extra hour stuck at the airport. This is the one TSA doesn't really warn you about out loud, but seniors get hit by it the most. On paper, liquid medications over 3.4 ounces can go through security if they're medically necessary, and if you declare them. In real life, people don't declare them because they assume it's medicine. Obviously, it's fine. So picture this. You pack an 8-ounce liquid fiber supplement in your carry-on. Screening pulls your bag aside, and the agent goes, "Ma'am, this exceeds the liquid limit." You say, "I take this every day. It's basically my medication." And they hit you with, "Do you have documentation? You didn't even know that was a thing." So they toss it. $28 gone. And now the next 3 days of your cruise aren't cute. You're uncomfortable, exhausted, and spending more time thinking about your stomach than the ocean. Here's what's actually happening. TSA does allow medically necessary liquids over 3.4 ounces, but they expect you to declare them before your bag gets flagged like a random jumbo shampoo. So the move is simple. When you walk up to the checkpoint, you say it calmly, "I have medically necessary liquids." They'll usually do a quick extra check, maybe a swab test, and you're done. And if you can bring proof, do it. A prescription label with your name, a doctor's note, or the original bottle showing your name and dosing helps a lot. It's not always required, but if you get a strict officer on a strict day, that tiny piece of paper can save your whole trip. If they start pushing back, the sentence that works is, "These are medically necessary liquids, exempt under TSA guidelines." One more small trick that makes this smoother. Print the TSA page on medical liquids from tsa.gov and fold it into your travel folder. It sounds extra until you're standing there and the rule is right in front of them in writing. Because one undeclared bottle can cost you money, comfort, and a few really good days of a trip you waited all year for. And even that isn't the most expensive mistake seniors make at the gate, because rule number 1 is the blank passport pages rule that can kill a whole vacation before you even board. This one is the most brutal because your passport can look totally fine and you still get denied. A lot of seniors check the expiration date and stop there. "I'm good for another year." But some countries don't care if you have time left. They care if you have space left. Here's the moment it happens. You're at check-in, feeling on schedule, bags are tagged, you're already imagining your seat and your coffee. The agent flips open your passport, turns a few pages, pauses, then says, "You don't have enough blank pages for this trip." And your brain does that thing where it goes, "Wait, blank pages? That's a rule?" Yep. Some destinations require a certain number of completely blank visa pages because they need room for entry stamps, exit stamps, and sometimes visa placement. If you've traveled a lot over the years, your passport might be packed with stamps and stickers. It looks experienced. The system reads it as "Nope," and just like that, you're not boarding. The reason airlines get strict is simple. If they fly you there and the country turns you away, the airline pays to bring you back. So they don't bend this rule at the counter. They shut it down. So the fix is boring and it saves vacations. Before any international trip, open your passport and check for truly blank pages. Not the pages with tiny stamps in the corner, not the ones with ripples or tears, not the ones with a sticker half peeling, clean, empty visa pages. If you're not sure what counts, assume the strict version, because that's what you'll meet on travel day. And in the US, you can't just add pages anymore. If you're running low, you replace the passport. That's why this catches seniors so often. It feels like something you'd never need to think about until it's suddenly the only thing that matters. So, here's the simple rule I tell people. If you're planning an international trip and your passport is already looking crowded, renew early, even if it hasn't expired. Give yourself time, because you don't want this turning into a last-minute scramble. Because rule number 8 through 1 all have the same theme. It's never the big obvious thing that ruins the trip. It's the quiet requirement nobody talks about. So if you zoom out, all 8 of these rules come down to one idea. Airports don't care that you're a good person who has traveled forever. They care that your paperwork fits the system today. If you check that 6-month window, protect your passport so the chip still reads, handle Real ID before it becomes a checkpoint surprise, and treat Europe's new biometric and online approvals like part of the ticket. You're not just avoiding problems, you're buying yourself a calmer travel day. Because the goal isn't to win an argument at a counter. The goal is to be the person who glides through while everyone else is doing the frantic pocket pat like they lost their entire identity. If this saved you even one headache for 2026, hit like so more travelers see it before they learn it the hard way. Subscribe if you want more no-drama flying guides, and drop a comment. What's the one travel rule you wish airlines or TSA would put on a giant sign instead of hiding in fine print?